there's a very specific kind of stress that hits when you get that message, "I'm almost there." And suddenly your entire place feels like it's working against you. You don't really clean, you triage. You grab things, move them, hide them, clothes disappear into drawers, random objects get stacked into something that looks intentional, doors get shut for a reason. You start making decisions faster than you normally would. Not good decisions, just fast ones. Anything that removes visual evidence in the moment. It's not about making the place clean. It's about making it look clean, just enough to pass. Then they walk in, glance around, and say, "Wow, it's really nice in here." And you smile, say thanks, and act like this is all normal. But you know it's not. And part of you knows that if they open the wrong drawer, the whole illusion would fall apart instantly. Now think about the opposite type of person. You've met them, the ones whose place looks put together no matter when you show up. Not perfect, it's not staged, it's just consistently calm. There's no scramble when someone visits, no last-minute adjustments. What you see is what it usually looks like. Middle of the week, nothing planned, long day behind them, and still, the surfaces are clean. The sink isn't full. Things are just handled. And if you've spent enough time around someone like that, you've probably had the same thought at some point. How? Not just how do they do it, but what's going on underneath it? Because it doesn't look like effort. There's no visible tension, no sense that they're forcing themselves to keep up with it. Most people assume it's discipline, that they're just better at forcing themselves to stay on top of things. But that explanation doesn't really hold. Because discipline feels like friction. And for some people, there isn't much friction there at all. For them, order isn't something they fight for. It's something they default to. Part of this comes down to how people relate to control. Not in a dramatic sense, but in the quiet belief that what you do actually shapes what happens next. Some people don't just understand that idea. They operate from it automatically. It's not something they remind themselves of. It's something they expect without thinking. So when they put something back where it belongs, it doesn't feel like effort. It feels like closure. Like completing a loop that should be completed. Like leaving something unfinished would feel slightly off. It reinforces something, that their actions matter, even in small ways. Other people don't have the same internal baseline, especially if they grew up in environments that felt inconsistent or unpredictable, where things didn't stay the way you left them, where routines didn't really exist. If things around you didn't follow patterns, your brain adapted. It learned not to rely on structure, not to expect things to stay in place. And from that perspective, trying to maintain order can feel pointless. Why invest energy into something that won't hold? Why clean something that's just going to be messy again tomorrow? So you don't. Or you try, briefly, and then it slips. And not because you're lazy, but because part of you isn't convinced it matters. And then there's another pattern, the one that looks productive on the surface. The person who suddenly cleans everything when something feels off, who reorganizes, scrubs, resets the entire space in one intense push. Usually late at night, usually when something else is bothering them. It looks like discipline, but it's actually something else. It's a response. When something feels overwhelming, something you can't easily solve, your brain looks for something you can solve, something contained, something finishable, something with a clear end. Cleaning fits perfectly. You start with a mess, you end with order. A clear before and after. Immediate feedback. Real problems don't give you that. They stay open, unresolved, complicated. So the energy gets redirected. You can't fix the situation, but you can fix the room. And for a little while, that creates relief. You feel productive, in control, like something moved forward. But it doesn't last, because the relief came from the action, not from resolving what caused the tension in the first place. So after everything's spotless, the same feeling slowly comes back. Sometimes quieter, sometimes exactly the same. That's why those cleaning bursts don't stick. They're not building a system, they're releasing pressure. Now, go back to the people who stay consistent. They're not waiting for pressure, and they're not relying on motivation. They've set a baseline. Their space doesn't swing wildly between chaos and perfection. It stays relatively stable, because small actions keep resetting it constantly. A few seconds here, a small reset there, done without thinking. And most of those actions don't feel like effort anymore. They feel automatic, like brushing your teeth. You don't wait until something's wrong. You just do it, because that's part of who you are. It would feel strange not to. That's the difference most advice skips over. It's not really about the system. It's about identity. You can copy the best method in the world, the perfect routine, the most optimized setup. But if it doesn't match how you see yourself, it won't last. It'll work for a week, maybe a month, and then slowly fade. Small exceptions at first, then bigger ones. Not because the system failed, but because it never became a part of you. Your behavior tends to align with what you believe is normal for you, which means your space, on a regular, unplanned day, is telling you something real. Not the version you show people, not the version you fix before someone arrives. The default version. The one that exists when you're not performing. What does it look like when you're tired, distracted, and not trying? Because that's the honest baseline. And that baseline usually reflects something deeper. How you manage your time, your energy, your attention. What you tolerate without noticing. What you've gotten used to. None of this is fixed. But it also doesn't change just by deciding it should. You don't become more organized by thinking about it. You become more organized by acting like someone who is, consistently enough that it stops feeling forced. Even when it's inconvenient, even when you don't feel like it. Small resets, repeated, again and again, until they stop feeling like decisions. Until they're no longer something you do, but something you just don't skip. And at that point, it doesn't feel like effort anymore. It feels like normal. So the better question isn't, how do I fix this? It's, who would this already be easy for? And what would they do on a random day when no one's watching? Start there. And repeat it enough times until it feels like you.